Hello Year 4, Mr. Pattington here. This is the plan for writing for all of this coming week. Let's make a start and get into it. So for Monday, we are learning to use a relative clause. Last week, we looked at using an embedded clause. So for a relative clause, we're going to give some extra information by using the relative pronouns who, which, or that. There are more, but we're going to focus on these three today. Let's take a look at some definitions and examples. So here we're going to look at using three different relative pronouns. Let's take a look at them. We've got who, which, and that. Who is used to describe a person or an animal with a name. This will work really well for Bruce and Cyril because they have names. Which can be used for things or animals without names, such as the bear, the bird, or any other animals in the story. And that can also be used for people, things, or animals without names. Got some examples on my board. Example 1. The man saw a shadow which frightened him. Of course, which frightened him is the extra information, and I'm explaining a bit more, giving more detail about the shadow. The lady took some medicine which made her feel better. So which made her feel better, of course, is adding extra detail about the medicine. And the final one is the dog searched for the soft toy that made a squeaking sound. What I'd like you to do is complete the example sentence I've got here. Now, I haven't wrote all of it yet. I'd like you to finish it for me. We have the man caught a fish. Using, where are we? Using who, which, or that. Can you complete this by adding in the relative clause? Off you go. Okay, so giving you a bit of time to think of a example sentence there, I'm going to show you one that I've just done. Using that same sentence, I've gone for the man caught a fish that was extremely heavy. That being the relative pronoun, and that is giving extra information about the fish. Alright, so for your task today, I would like you to write me a diary entry with some relative clauses embedded into your writing. I'm going to imagine that I am the bear. As we know in the story, the bear is rudely awakened by Bruce and Cyril as they are chasing after their precious pine cone. I'm going to read it out for you now. Dear Diary, today I was rudely awakened by a pesky couple of squirrels that disturbed my peaceful nap. How incredibly rude of them. I think forest folk who make such a racket should be made to give up some of their hibernation food, because it simply isn't fair. Besides, those squirrels are often squabbling these days. They're an odd couple. The squirrel that had the bushy's tail was screaming so loudly I'm surprised it didn't wake the whole forest. It was as loud as thunder. Why must they make so much noise at such an early time? Tomorrow, I'm going to file a complaint to the animals which have also been bothered by those crazy critters. Wish me luck, Bear. So you can see I've used that, who, and which at least once in my writing. Instead of using who all the time, I like to try and use who, that, and which at least once in your paragraph. Best of luck and have fun. Hi everyone, it's Tuesday and today we are learning to write a paragraph using onomatopoeia. So what is onomatopoeia? Well, it's an attention-grabbing sound. It's a word that looks like the sound it makes. We can almost hear the sound as we read them. Let's take a look at some examples from our text. So here we've got some examples from the squirrels that squabbled. We've got boinged, binged, and plop. These are all used to describe the different sounds the pine cone is making as it tumbles across the forest and into the river. Can you think of any more examples? Comic books often use words like crash, bang, and wallop to give action scenes a dramatic effect. They're also being used to have a dramatic effect here as well. Have a little think with the person next to you, or if you're at home, with an adult if possible. Here I have written some examples of onomatopoeia. One really effective way of using onomatopoeia is to use an exclamation mark after the onomatopoeia. After this, we write a sentence which explains what caused the sound. Here are some examples. Plop! The pine cone tumbled into the deep, freezing river and began floating away. Squawk! The bird screamed as it began to swoop in on Bruce and Cyril. Bang! The pine cone hit the ground hard as it fell out of the trees, tumbling down a steep hill. You can see how I've used onomatopoeia as a sound word followed by an exclamation mark. The following sentence is telling the reader exactly what caused the sound. Can you think of some of your own? Your task for today is to write a paragraph using onomatopoeia. I'd like you to use and focus on the pine cone's journey as it tumbles out of the tree, along the forest floor and into the river. Remember to use onomatopoeia throughout your writing. I expect you to use it 3 times in your paragraph. Make sure you're using lots of detail as well. The pictures below are there to remind you of the pine cone's journey, but feel free to change things up a little bit if you like. Okay, for Wednesday's lesson, we are learning to describe using high quality vocab and alliteration. And to do that, we're going to use Bruce's huge pile of hibernation foods. So what is alliteration? Well, alliteration happens when words that start with the same sound, not just the same letter, are used repeatedly in a phrase or sentence. The sound is usually a consonant and the words don't have to be right next to one another. For example, Bruce looked up at his colossal pile of tasty treats. Tasty and treats there begin with the letter T, and they're placed quite close to each other, which means the words alliterate. In the next example, I've got 3 examples. Fresh fruits and mouth-watering mushrooms were sticking out of Bruce's phenomenal fruit pile. Take a look at phenomenal and fruit. Now, you might be thinking, but phenomenal begins with a P and fruit begins with an F. How can they alliterate? Well, even though phenomenal and fruit begin with a different consonant, they make a similar sound, so they can be used as an example of alliteration. So we've got P and the H making the F sound, and fruit making the F sound. Therefore, they can alliterate. Okay, spend some time now looking at the different items in the pile. Can you think of any words which begin with the same letter or a similar sound? I can see things like mushrooms, I can see acorns, pine cones, I see berries like cranberries, leaves, apples. What I want you to do is have a little think about alliteration. So if I can see mushrooms, think of the word that begins with M that could describe those mushrooms. Leaves, berries. Well, I've got some examples here. I've gone for marvellous mushrooms, lush leaves, and beautiful berries. Have a little think about some of the other fruits and things you can see there. Moving on, so here is my example paragraph that I've done for us. Have a little look at just how much I've used alliteration throughout this piece of writing. I've also tried to use as much high-level vocab as possible, really using some powerful describing words here. Beaming Bruce proudly looked up at his plentiful pile of hibernation stores. Magnificent mushrooms and luxurious leaves in all shapes, colours and sizes stuck out in every direction. Bruce had spent almost all of autumn building his marvellous mountain. With a gleaming grin, he ticked plums, apples and some beautiful berries off his list. Inspecting the back of the pile, he licked his lips as he added more cherries, nuts and acorns. Most of all, he was looking forward to tasting the small pile of succulent, scrumptious strawberries. They were his favourite. Then a frightening thought entered his mind. Looking down at his checklist, he realised he was 1 pine cone short. Alright, so your task for today is to write a paragraph of your own describing Bruce's pile. Let's use alliteration as much as we can here. So, remember, we're going to use words with the same letter or a similar sound close to each other to make the words alliterate. Use high quality vocab to really make your work stand out. If you're going to be listing objects or items, remember to use commas in the correct place. Best of luck and have fun with this one. I'm hoping for some really creative sentences today. I'd expect you to spend about half an hour on this task. Off you go. Hello everyone, it is Thursday and today we are looking at using rhyming scheme. We're going to use a B, C, B rhyming scheme. The squirrels at Squabbled uses rhyme throughout. Why do you think that is? Have a little think for a few moments. Well, rhyme can be a really great way to engage the reader. It's a great way to catch the reader's attention and make them want to continue reading. Texts that rhyme may use a variety of different rhyming schemes. The Squirrels at Squabbled uses an A, B, C, B structure. This is because the final word in the second line rhymes with the final words in the fourth line of every stanza. A stanza is a group of lines which are used and arranged in a pattern. Lots of poems use these. You can see to the right I've taken some examples from the text. I'm going to read some for you now. Now, most forestry folk had seen to their needs through the plentiful months of mushrooms and seeds. They sprinted and scurried with no time to gamble. They scratched the bark in their scampering scramble. Both squirrels followed. Oh, the water was fast. Would they learn that they needed each other at last? Do you see how lines 2 and 4 both end in words that rhyme with each other? Here we can see that fast and last both rhyme. Fast is used at the end of line 2 and last ends line 4. This is why we call it an A, B, C, B stanza. Have a try at rewriting this stanza on the right with some different rhyming words. Remember to rhyme lines 2 and 4. You might want to change the stanza a little bit more than just the rhyming words. You're free to have a try at that, that's completely fine. Come back in about 5 minutes and we'll carry on and I'll show you one that I've done as well. Alright, hope you had fun thinking of your own stanza. I have gone for both squirrels followed. Oh, the water was chilly. By now they both realise this was all rather silly. Lines 2 and lines 4 ending with words that rhyme. Alright, so for your task today, using the 3 images below, I'd like you to write 3 stanzas using the A, B, C, B rhyming structure. Look at the pictures first and think carefully about your rhyming words before writing. If you manage to write 3 stanzas and would like to do another, that's completely fine as long as someone has checked your work. Hi everybody! For Friday, we are learning to use a subordinate clause at the beginning of a sentence. To add some flair and make our sentences stand out, we're going to look at describing the actions of our characters with a subordinate clause. A subordinate clause cannot stand on its own, but it can be added to a main clause to add some great detail. Today, our subordinate clauses are also fronted adverbials because we're using them at the beginning of a sentence. Here, we are using a subordinate clause which starts with the phrase with a or with an, followed by an action and a comma. Then we add another action with some more detail. Can you think of a similar sentence for one of the characters in the story? Let's take a look at my examples. With a deep breath, comma, Cyril and Bruce plunged into the icy water below them. With a mighty jump, comma, Cyril leapt out of the tree. With a smile, comma, Bruce and Cyril shook hands and burst out laughing. Have a little think about key moments in the story and have a little think about if you can think of it with an followed by an action and a comma. Remember, after your comma you need to add another action to give a bit more detail. Here's a paragraph I wrote earlier. Notice how I described the character's actions using a with, a or an, then an action and a comma followed by another action. Each time the subordinate clause is being used to begin a sentence. With a deep breath, Cyril darted after Bruce. He was using all of his strength to catch up, and his heart was racing as he caught a glimpse of Bruce's thick, bushy tail. Bruce looked behind and saw Cyril getting closer and closer. With an amazing burst of speed, Bruce quickly turned to the right and headed further into the lush forest. Bruce thought he had managed to lose Cyril and breathed a huge sigh of relief. Unfortunately, he didn't see the thick branch sticking out of the ground. With a panicked cry, Bruce tripped over and fell in a heap on the damp ground. Cyril had almost caught up to him. For your task today, I would like you to write me a descriptive paragraph using with, a, or an at the beginning of a sentence. I would like you to use this 2 or 3 times in your writing. Focus your writing on Bruce and Cyril as they are falling down the waterfall. Use the pictures on the next slide to help you. I've taken 3 and put them on the slide for you. Remember, focus on your spellings and correctly punctuate your subordinate clause. Remember, you want to start with a or an action, then a comma, then follow that up with another action. If you need any help, you can go back to the example sentences to help you. Have fun, everybody.